She changed my locks while I was still holding my newborn. She had no idea what was waiting for her. The day I was discharged from the hospital, I hadn't slept in 41 hours. My incision was still bandaged. My hands were shaking from the medication. And my daughter, 7 pounds, 4 ounces, 3 days old, was asleep against my chest, her breath the only thing keeping me calm. My husband Marcus was supposed to pick us up. He didn't show. I called twice. No answer. So I called a cab, buckled my daughter into the infant seat the hospital had loaned me, and rode home in silence through a gray Portland morning. And when I turned onto my street and saw the white van parked in my driveway, and a man in a gray jacket crouched at my front door with a drill, I told the driver to stop. Standing behind that locksmith, arms folded, wearing a smile she didn't even try to hide, was my mother-in-law, Linda. She saw me get out of the cab. She watched me walk up the path with my newborn in my arm, and she said, without even lowering her voice, "This house belongs to Marcus now, Renata. You need to make other arrangements." I stood there on my own front step, postpartum, exhausted, stitched together, and I smiled, because 3 days earlier, while Linda was busy thinking she had already won, I had filed a court order that made everything she was doing completely, legally worthless. But let me take you back to the beginning, because this didn't happen overnight. Marcus and I bought our house 2 years into our marriage. 4 bedrooms, original hardwood floors, a backyard with an old oak tree that I immediately loved. The down payment, $47,000, came entirely from my savings. Money I had set aside since my mid-20s, working in healthcare administration, living below my means, waiting for exactly this moment. Marcus's credit was poor from a failed business before we met, so the mortgage went in my name alone. My income, my credit, my signature. Hat detail matters. Remember it. When I found out I was pregnant, we were happy, genuinely happy. Marcus set up a registry the next morning. We talked about which room would be the nursery. We argued, affectionately, over paint colors. But something shifted around my 3rd month. Marcus started staying late. His phone, always face down. His calls with Linda, longer and more frequent. And Linda herself started appearing at the house without notice, rearranging things, commenting on the layout, walking through rooms with the quiet authority of someone who thought they belonged there. I brushed it off at first, chalked it up to pregnancy sensitivity. Then one evening, looking for a pen in Marcus's office, I found a folder on his desk. Inside was a printout of our property deed, and a handwritten note in Marcus's writing that said, "Mom reviewed. Quit claim is cleanest. Call Hargrove Monday." I didn't know what a quit claim deed was, but I knew what call Hargrove Monday meant. It meant my husband was meeting with someone about our house. Without me, I photographed the note, put the folder back, and said nothing at dinner. That night I searched the name. Hargrove was a Portland real estate attorney. His specialty, property transfers. The next morning I called my friend Diane, a paralegal. She listened to everything. Then she said something that I now consider the most important words anyone has ever said to me. Don't confront him yet. The moment they know you know, the plan changes and you lose your advantage. Get a lawyer first. Document everything. And don't sign a single piece of paper without reading every word. I hired an attorney named Claire Ashworth within 48 hours. And then I did something that did not come naturally to me at all. I went home. I smiled. I cooked dinner. I asked Marcus how his day was. And I listened. Over the next 6 weeks, I recorded every conversation where Linda made a comment about the house being Marcus. I photographed every document in his office. My neighbor Joyce mentioned she'd seen Linda walking the backyard with a man in a suit, pointing at property line. I told Claire immediately. The man was Hargrove. They were already acting like they owned it. Claire told me what they were building toward. A quit-claim deed, a legal instrument that, if I signed it under the guise of routine paperwork, could strip my ownership and transfer it to Marcus. Piece by piece, they were assembling what they needed. They just hadn't counted on the fact that I was assembling something too. My daughter arrived early. Emergency C-section, February 3rd. While I was in surgery, unconscious, unreachable, Linda made her move. She contacted Hargrove. He filed a fraudulent co-ownership claim with the county recorder's office, using a partial form I had signed weeks earlier under the pretense of an insurance update. They had read it, dressed it up to look like a transfer request. They timed it perfectly. New mother, hospital bed, no defenses. What they didn't know was that Claire had placed a legal alert on my property the moment I hired her. The second anything was filed against my address, she was notified. She called me 11 hours after my daughter was born. They filed, she said. I'm countering tonight. From my hospital bed, one hand on my daughter's back, I said, do it. 3 days later, I came home. The The locksmith was at my door. Linda was smiling. I reached into my bag and handed the locksmith a printed court order filed that morning, confirming sole legal ownership of the property and prohibiting any modifications to the premise. He read it, packed his tools, left. Linda's face went still. "You knew," she said. "The whole time," I said, and I walked through my front door, and I closed it behind me. The court ruled 6 weeks later. My name, only my name, exactly as it had always been. Linda's fraudulent filing triggered a criminal fraud investigation. Her name entered public court records. The community she had spent years curating her reputation in watched it unravel in plain sight. Marcus signed away any remaining claim to the house as part of our divorce settlement. He didn't fight it. There was nothing left to fight with. He never apologized. I stopped needing him to. My daughter is 8 months old now. She pulls herself up on the edge of her crib every morning in a room I painted sage green, in a house that is entirely, legally, completely ours. They planned this for over a year. They chose the moment I was most vulnerable, unconscious on a surgical table, to make their final move. And they still lost, because they mistook my silence for weakness. My silence was the weapon. If you're watching this and something in your home, your finances, your paperwork, feels off, trust it, document it, say nothing until you have someone in your corner. They count on you being too tired, too trusting, too afraid to look. Don't be. Share this if it reached you, because someone who needs to hear it is watching right now.